Welcome to another episode of the Macchia Show. This week's episode is sponsored by Happy Gilmore 2. Ran into Adam the other day. Super nice guy. Just wanted to give it a plug. Objectively not as good as the first. I think anybody will admit that, but it was for the fans and we appreciate it. Thank you, Adam. Welcome back to the Macchia Show, where apparently I just expose my deepest, darkest inner secrets for the world, or say highly questionable things. That's not what I'm exactly going for. What I am going for is empowerment to the people, particularly the males out there, trying to help the men the way that I've helped myself. That's ultimately my goal. And if that hasn't come across, then hopefully I have time still to do that for you. I hope this helps the females, anybody else out there. Um, but I can only speak to the male perspective because I'm a male. So I'm going to try. And this week's episode is titled Girlfriend Confidence. And I want to talk about girlfriend confidence. Girlfriend confidence is the type of confidence you get when you find that person that makes you stop looking around, right? You know what you have. You know that you'll get out what you put in. Very infrequently in life do we have something, pardon the sirens if there's sirens. Just shut that. Good call, guy. Very infrequently in life do we have things that we do where we apply effort and know what the outcome is going to be. And having a strong girlfriend, I learned in college, is one of those things where you can just focus your attention on growing this love, growing this relationship, and not worry about anything else. Mind won't venture off. And it's interesting what that does for you. What that does for you is it makes you covetable in the eyes of other people because other people have insecurities as well. We all have insecurities. Consciousness ensures that people will have insecurities. And somebody who's so secure in their efforts exposes other people's insecurities. And that's what true confidence does. It makes people question their own level of confidence. And other people, and people handle it in certain ways. You can rebel, you can get angry at that person, you can get jealous, or you can let that person's actions inspire you. You can see their level of conscious awareness and you can make the decision on what you're going to do. Are you going to get better from their presence, or are you going to let their presence knock you down? Um, so this episode is titled Girlfriend Confidence because part of being truly confident is having faith, belief, trust that your only output, the only output that you can control, your effort, your time is going into this thing and that it's making you better. It's enhancing you. You need something that's not a girlfriend to do that for you. And I think that's ultimately what life comes down to as a man in this world. As a man in this world, once you realize that your idea of self is kind of an illusion, right? Once you realize that you have an ego that's controlling one part of you and you're part of a bigger conscious collective at the same time, you have a decision to make once you discover that ego. At least I did. You can go to Tibet and be the best rice counting monk that's ever lived, right? You could take that meditation, you could kill that ego entirely. You could do something so mundane that every aspect of your persona, your American persona, is rendered useless, right? Or you could decide to play. You could decide to take the objective reality that you exist in, who you are, what people think you are, what you look like, use the rules that exist that we've created. There are these rules in America for money and taxes and everything that we've created to domesticate us, and you can decide to play. But if you make that choice, you have to invite some ego back into your life. You don't exist as a wallflower in the West. You can't just disappear. And that's tough because sometimes the ego's you're gonna make you a little bit of a douche. And I've been there, brother. But life as a man is about finding balance on this confident, humble spectrum at which you would realize you exist if you decide to kill your ego and then bring pieces of it back to play here in the West. And I feel like that's what I am doing. And the only real way to do that is to have faith and belief and confidence in something, in a process. For me, it's my movement. And I got lucky because if you listen to episode one of the Guy Macchia show, you would know that I had an outer body hallucination that I was a crocodile after smoking weed during the Shavasana of a hot yoga class, probably my fifth one, right? And that class, becoming a crocodile, taught me that if you see it, you own it. There's no running away from things that pop into your conscious perspective. Mine was bad posture. People have been telling me for years, yo, dude, your posture sucks. And I pretended like I didn't hear them. That's objective reality, right? If other people are looking at you and telling you your posture sucks, your posture probably sucks. So there's something to that, right? So I go on this deep dive. I want to figure out the truth. What is so bad about bad posture? And it turns out fucking everything. Your feet, the tension in your feet dictate the tension in every other area of your body, nervous, skeletal, musculoskeletal, gastrointestinal, um, hormonal, all the above. Your body's tension is going to dictate your health. That's what I figured out in my deep dive for the truth. That's now an objective reality for me. One more for me. I know that if I do A, I get B. So I do A. And I've been doing A pretty well. Some people might disagree, but I've been doing A and getting B for a long time now. And when you do enough A and get enough B and you know that that outcome will come with some sort of certainty, you start to really not give a shit what other people think about you. So that's what I'm working on and hope that I can disseminate through these messages. And I want to tell you a little bit about what faith does. So I'm going to make myself vulnerable, surprise. Um, and I apologize in advance if this sounds super vain. It just may. But I've been addressed as strikingly handsome two times in my life. The word strikingly being key here. Um, the first was I was 24. I had just lost a bunch of weight. I started modeling. I was shredded, chiseled, tan. It was summer in Manhattan. I was on the subway downtown with my buddy, and this Latina woman said it to me, sitting across from me. And I remember it vividly because it went straight to my head. I remember just thinking I was the shit. I don't know why, that was my ego. I was cocky. I was cocky about it, right? For some reason, I felt like I exist. I was owed this thing that people want, right? This covetable thing, being handsome, went straight to my head. And around the same time, and you don't think that, you don't know that when you're that cocky douche. But around the same time, I take my birthright, which is an all-inclusive paid trip to Israel by the state of Israel. Shout out my mom's side. Um, was eating my body weight in hummus. That's an aside, maybe a story for another time. But we have a secret Santa or Hanukkah, whatever, Harry, um, furtive Frank, um, with a $10 budget in the city of Jerusalem. And my gifter went last, and she had procured for me a mirror so that I could look at myself. And that hurt. Whether or not it was true, I was pissed. And I tried to give it back to her. It was embarrassing. Um, Ultimately, as fate would have it, I mean, I think that may have been a little true. And as God does, working in mysterious ways, later on after getting back from that trip, I would be in my apartment in Manhattan. I smoked a J, took a shower, and like burnt my face. The water was so hot and I couldn't feel my face. And some botched skin. It wasn't that bad, but I botched it with the skincare after. I was using a cleanser instead of a moisturizer, yada, yada, yada. My skin got dry. Um, and these are obviously things that you're noticing it's your face. But at the same time, I've been on this posture journey, and sometimes this posture journey giveth and taketh. And it was a period of time where my body wasn't looking like amazing, and I wasn't strikingly handsome, right? I may have been a handsome guy, right? But like nobody would look at me and be like, "Oh, that guy's strikingly handsome." Um, so when I get called, or when I start realizing at some point that I was relying on my looks, and then I take this deep dive of killing my ego, and I make this discovery that I can either go count rice or play. I decide to play. I decide to play here in America. And I start making improvements on my posture just by trying to become a better breather, right? That was my commitment. I didn't care about the aesthetic. I killed my ego. My ego is dead a long time ago. But I build this posture back and I decide I'm going to play in the West. And lo and behold, last year I'm working at Equinox. I'm walking through the catwalk and this dude's like, yo, dude, you're strikingly handsome. And this time it went straight to my heart. Didn't go straight to my head because I just might be, right? That's the whole objective reality thing. Do I look at myself and think that? I don't know, but people tell me like if that's happened, then I have to deal with that. And nobody cares. Nobody's like listening to me complain about being handsome, whatever. I'm not looking for your pity. I'm trying to tell you that one was earned, right? I existed at one point and somebody called me handsome and it went straight to my fucking head. My ego is through the roof. And now I earned whatever it is. It's not about anything other than my posture, the way that I've grown my body, the effort I put in from the day that I became a croc, when I committed to fixing my posture, fixing what I found on that day, becoming a better breather, the information and knowledge that I've gained. So my fucking jawline took off. And, look at this shit, right? I'm pretty proud of this. I built this through God. God gave me this jawline. It wasn't always like this. I'll put a fucking picture down. This happened because I tried to become better at breathing. And so now I'm stuck with this thing. What do I do with it? Because I've tried to become a wallflower. Being a wallflower doesn't work, especially not here in the West. I'll tell you a story about that. When I did kill my ego, or on the route down, probably halfway through this journey, I'm in Colorado. I'm taking a yoga class. And one of the principles of yoga is breathing as much as you want, loud as you want, getting things out, getting things up. So I commit one day to really letting it rip. And I'm next to this dude and he tells me to be quiet, essentially two times. Long story short, whispers it to me, and it like perturbed me. It messed the rest of my session up. I wish it didn't. I wish I had the fortitude to be like, you know what, fuck yourself. I'm allowed to do this. And ultimately, the instructor corroborated that at the end of class, and he apologized to me months later. Regardless, it didn't sit right with me that I wasn't able to have the gumption to just sit in the pocket and like just continue to breathe. And that's what it's like to be a wallflower, right? You're ineffective, effete, word of the day. Look it up, right? Means just not rendered useless. Um, yeah. So that's what I was. And then I slowly have had to build myself back piece by piece to exist here. Right? That means putting back the ego in ways that allow you to grow the things that need to be grown here in the West, your finances, your status, et cetera, to an extent, but not lose your fucking soul, right? That's the balance between the confidence, humble scale that all males, and I think females exist on as well. How do I succeed, believe in myself, love myself, not give a fuck about what other people think about me, but make money so that I have time, I can buy my most important commodity. Those things are maybe counter. So life to me is about finding a way to balance them. How do I create meaningful relationships and partnerships without losing my soul? How am I truly confident and not cocky? And again, I think that's having faith in the identity that was given to you for whatever reason, right? Truly understanding that the ego exists as a separate entity, but you are a unique meat suit that vibrates at a certain frequency, certain ionic balances going on, countering with the universe. And it's not on you. You're not allowed to judge other people's meat suits, right? You're only in control of your own. And the person that taught me that, and I would say the basis of this episode to close, is a woman named Leslie Patrick. Shout out LP. She went by LP. She was my Black history professor my sophomore year at Bucknell University. And LP was an absolute legend. She was a little overweight. She was in her 60s, I would say at the time, light, salted hair, glasses, a couple replaced joints, a cane. And she had an e-cig was probably her best outfitted detail that she would rip when kids said unwoke shit like me, hold it in, just like pucker up. And she also used it as a pointer. I guess that's how she justified it. But she never got angry, despite a black woman who was born in the civil rights South or lived through it, and whatever other circumstances she had to go through as a black woman in her life, can't even imagine. She looked at me with pity almost, but just like unrelenting empathy for my soul. Like, despite my appearance, right? All the things I had benefited, my white, silver spooned, privileged, tall, white ass. Did I say white? I'm white. She looked at me and knew that if I didn't figure out all the things I needed to figure out for myself, I didn't have anything. And she did. She was enlightened, so she didn't care. She was committed to bringing me up. She didn't want to bring me down. She was committed to me finding my own enlightenment for myself. A woman, right? Had no reason to do so. And it turns out my journey for me was going to be harder than I thought, right? Nobody's looking at me like, my life has been good. I've enjoyed the journey, but nobody's perfect. Our conscious, we're not developed to deal with how complex our conscious is, right? There are just things that crop up in our head. We're like, what the fuck? I got to deal with that, right? That's because we exist in all these constructs. We have too much shit going on. We were never developed to have all this shit. So you have to deal with that. And sometimes your shit plays tricks on you. I found the only solution is to find a craft, find a hobby, even a relationship, maybe. I'm not sure. And grow that bitch and commit full force, speed ahead, full speed ahead in one direction on that thing and put your belief in it. And that's your religion. It doesn't need to be organized religion. Mine is my movement. That's my faith. And having faith that somebody gave me all these things, all these tools, whatever they are, what am I going to do with them? Right? That's my burden. This conscious awareness, the way I exist, all these objective realities, that's the problem we're all trying to solve for ourselves if we're aware. Right? How do I counterbalance myself? How do I not give my soul away, but leverage the things that I have, my brain, the things I've learned, my subjective experience. How do I leverage that in the objective world? And so I think we're all looking to do that. And I hope that my journey and the things I share help you figure out what it is that you need to do on yours. But that's the goal here at the Guy Macchia Show. I'm sorry if I talked about some questionable topics last time. That's just my life. I was trying to humanize myself. What are you gonna do? That's gonna be the weird song, the deep cut on my album. So that's how I feel about that. Anyway, thank you for listening. Like, subscribe. Don't love you either way. And I appreciate you trying to be a good person and hope you see that in me as well. So have a nice day. See you soon.